He was composed. He confirmed the dispute. He confirmed the withdrawal. He said the disappearance was almost certainly a scheme by Mokhtar to avoid repayment. He had an alibi. 3 clinics, a full university schedule, 30 years of professional reputation standing behind every single word. And he refused, absolutely, to participate in any reenactment. This was a man who had spent a lifetime being believed, and he was counting on that now, for the last time. This is episode 3, the final chapter of the professor's last patient on the Dread Archive. Episode 1 built the man, 2 parallel lives perfectly separated, maintained without a visible crack for 30 years. Episode 2 documented what he did inside that clinic, what was found 4 days later at Fam El Khalig, and the forensic work that produced an identification from a shattered, burned skull. Now investigators had a name. They had DNA confirmation. They had a forensic profile that pointed directly at a medically trained individual. And they had one other thing. There was one person alive who had been in that room. One person carrying the full weight of everything that happened. His name was Mohammed Abd el-Latif, and the stress was visible before he even sat down. Dr. El-Gharib was brought in for questioning first. Every account of that session describes the same thing. He sat down and engaged as if he were conducting a consultation. Calm, measured, thoroughly prepared. He confirmed the financial dispute with Mokhtar in full. He confirmed the lawsuit. He confirmed the withdrawal and explained it simply. He had agreed to installments. He had chosen to be reasonable. He said Mokhtar's disappearance was almost certainly a performance. A man running from his debts, using the absence to buy time. He had an alibi. His clinic schedule. His university timetable. Colleagues who could confirm his presence at every relevant moment. 30 years of clinical detachment, deployed with precision, against the very people trying to dismantle it. He refused, absolutely, to participate in a reenactment. His lawyers advised against it. He agreed. He would not place himself voluntarily inside the story investigators were trying to tell. On the surface, this was the performance of an innocent man, composed, cooperative on the facts he could not deny, resistant at every boundary that mattered. But investigators didn't need to break him. They needed Abd el-Latif. When Abd el-Latif was brought in for questioning, the stress was visible before the session even began. Investigators did not come at him with accusations. They came at him with method. They worked through the conversation carefully, methodically, unhurried, letting him believe consistently, deliberately, that they already had everything, that the physical evidence had already told the full story, that his role in the conversation was only to confirm what was already documented. That technique is older than any forensic tool ever invented. And it works, because a man carrying that weight, in that room, cannot calculate with any accuracy what is genuinely known and what is being implied. The uncertainty becomes unbearable, and the weight of what he is carrying becomes heavier than the weight of what confession might cost him. He broke. He confessed to all of it. The call to Mokhtar, the message about the installment, walking him into the clinic, the gunshots, the hours that followed, the operating table, the saw, the burning, the skull placed under the wheels, the bags, the drive, Fam El Khalig, the distances between the drops. All of it. Dr. Mohammed Ahmed El-Gharib was arrested. He denied everything. He challenged every piece of evidence. He refused the reenactment. His legal team fought at every stage of the proceedings. It wasn't enough. The forensic report, the chemical analysis, the facial reconstruction, the DNA confirmation, the testimony of Abdel Latif, corroborated in every detail by the physical evidence. All of it combined into a case that held. Both men were sentenced to death. And on paper, that sounds like justice. The case is closed. The verdict is on record. Both men were convicted of premeditated murder, and the family of Mohammed Mokhtar finally had an answer. A terrible answer, but an answer. But here is what stays with you after you have sat with this case long enough. This man spent 30 years building a reputation so solid, so layered with credential, with academic standing, with the daily performance of saving lives, that even after the body was found, even after forensic experts pointed directly at a medically trained individual, he was almost untouchable. His career was the alibi. His status was the shield. The burned hands, the crushed skull, the chemical traces on the bone. None of that was improvised. None of it was panic. None of it was the work of someone who lost control. That was a man who understood exactly what investigators look for when they try to give a destroyed body a name, because he had spent decades studying the same science. He designed the crime around the gaps in what can be proven. He just didn't account for one thing. The man who knew everything about him was not as committed to silence as the doctor had always believed. And that is worth sitting with, because Abd el-Latif had been watching for years. He had watched the expired medicine, the defective equipment, the currency trading, the dirty money moving through legitimate hands. He watched all of it, year after year, and he said nothing until there was a body. This is the part of the case that the verdict cannot reach, because the court answered the question of guilt. It assigned responsibility for what happened in that clinic on that night. It sentenced 2 men, but the court did not, and could not, fully address what was happening in the years before that night. The expired pharmaceuticals that were sold to patients who trusted them, the defective medical equipment that was returned to supply chains and used in procedures on people who had no idea, the patients who may have been harmed, the colleagues who may have suspected something, the people who were close enough to see the cracks and chose not to look directly at them. Abd el-Latif confessed to the murder. He described every detail of that night with precision, but the confession addressed the murder, not the years, which means the question that stays with you is not whether justice was served. The question is, what else did Mohammed Abd el-Latif know and take with him? This case is now filed in the Dread Archive. Cases never closed. If you stayed through all 3 episodes of this series, you already understand what this archive is. It is not a place for clean endings. It is not a place for easy answers. It is the place where the cases that should never be forgotten are kept alive. The next case is already in the file. Subscribe to the Dread Archive. Turn on every notification, because some stories are not finished yet. Subscribe.